Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and last week was filled with a ton of different releases with WWDC 2023. We saw iOS 17 for the first time, watchOS 10, but this week we expect even more. This is your Apple News update for the week of June 12th, 2023. Now, with the release of the new updates to macOS Sonoma and future products, Apple has released a toolkit to help developers port their games from Windows to Mac, taking advantage of Metal and much more. So maybe we'll see a bunch of different games. Of course, this is to get ready with Apple Vision Pro as well, but let me know your thoughts about that. Do you think you'll ever be gaming on a Mac? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Now that the new Macs were announced at WWDC 2023, officially they're available tomorrow. Early reviews are already out on the 15-inch MacBook Air that basically say it's a larger 13-inch but with much better speakers. Also, we now have updates with the Mac Studio, the M2 Ultra, and even Mac Pro. Expect all of those to be out. Many reviews are rolling out now. And the new M2 Ultra chipset has been shown in its first benchmarks with impressive results. The M2 Ultra is the fastest chip Apple has ever offered, and in early benchmarks, it's 2 times faster than the 28-core Intel CPU. That one was offered in the 2019 Mac Pro. So Apple's come a long way in just a couple years, and that's pretty impressive. Now, one thing we didn't hear directly at WWDC 2023 in the keynote was that iOS 17 will let you use your iPhone and Apple Wallet as an Apple ID to present it to businesses. So you could use your wallet and maybe you have your license in there, although that will require more states to sign on. But on their website where they showed off new features, you'll see they give an example where you could show proof of age at a different concert hall. And you've also got the option to sort of verify that with Face ID or Touch ID. So that's something we could see in the near future where businesses will be allowed to actually ask for that. You bring your phone near it, and then they can check that way with a verified ID. Of course, right now it seems we've only got a few states. So if we go into Wallet, if you go to Add to Wallet and go to Driver's License or State ID, maybe this will change in the future, but so far we only have 4 states in the United States that have signed on. We would need all of the states or other countries as well. So we have Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, and Maryland. And that's it. So maybe in the future we'll have many, many more. Now, Netflix is something I've talked about a little bit in previous updates where they've actually started to crack down on people using passwords across multiple families. So if you use Netflix and maybe you signed up in your home and then you went to share your password with maybe a relative or someone else, they're now realizing that based off of location information, your IP address, and more, and asking you to subscribe separately. Many people thought that people would just stop signing up for Netflix, but it seems that it's actually working, and Netflix has gotten a bunch of new subscribers lately. So that's something I think that went great for Netflix, but was kind of unexpected, as I thought many people would just cancel in general. Let me know if you've actually been prompted for that and had to sign up for a different account. Now, of course, last week we saw Apple Vision Pro. It's no longer just a rumor and was shown last week as a mixed reality headset, or what Apple calls a spatial computing platform. If you haven't heard, it starts at $3,499 and launches early next year. Developers will be able to get their hands on a developer kit in July, or at least sign up for it. And while I'm a bit skeptical about it still, as I'm not sure people will want to use it regularly all day, I do think it's a move in the right direction for VR and augmented reality. Maybe when they get to the point where it's small enough to fit into glasses and it wouldn't be a thing you wear over your face regularly. A recent patent shows that they even work to eliminate motion sickness when using Apple Vision Pro, which is a big problem if you've ever used anything such as MetaQuest or any of the other VR headsets. So this is something I can't wait to try out. Still not 100% convinced, but let me know what you think about Apple Vision Pro in the comments below. Now, if you're one of the millions of people that uses WhatsApp, WhatsApp recently previewed a new one-way broadcast channel feature for those who follow not just people, but also organizations. It looks sort of like a Twitter feed and gives helpful information based on who or what you're following. I'm not sure that that's the right direction for a chat app, but let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I think many people prefer to go to things such as maybe Reddit, although that seems to be kind of going downhill lately since they're not allowing third-party apps very easily. And also Twitter seems to be a place a lot of people are there, or Mastodon. There's just other alternatives, so I don't see WhatsApp actually becoming that. Now with iOS 17, there's a bunch of features we'll talk about more in a moment, but 1Password has recently said that passkey support will be added with the iOS 17 update later this year. So 1Password showed off some of its upcoming features in a sneak peek video on their YouTube channel. I actually use 1Password myself to manage a bunch of different passwords, and if you want to try it out, I'll link it in the description as well. Now, before we talk about iOS 17 and a few other features I wanted to mention, there's some weekly deals that I thought I'd share. One of them is Apple's back-to-school deals with up to a $150 gift card are now available with the purchase of a Mac or iPad. Also, AirPods Pro are discounted even more heavily now. This is sold directly from Apple on Amazon. They're down to $189, so I'll link that in the description along with an update for M1 MacBook Air that's been greatly reduced, and M1 Max MacBook Pro 16 inches. Those are off up to $850, the 14 inches as well. So lots of great deals this week. Be sure to check them out in the description below. Now, iOS 17 brings far more changes than we originally thought, and while we're not seeing so much of a visual change, there are quite a few helpful and small changes. I've been using it. It doesn't look very different here, but if I scroll over, you'll see I have interactive widgets and more. One of the features I didn't show before is that you can actually ping your Apple Watch from the Control Center. You'll see I don't have it here, but if we go into our settings, we go to Control Center and we scroll down, we have the option to ping my watch. If I add that, then go into my Control Center, you'll see the option here. We'll tap it here, and here's my Apple Watch. Let's see if it actually works. And there we go, it's actually working. And it looks like it stopped as soon as I tilted my wrist up, but you have that option now. You can also set up multiple timers, and this is something they showed in the keynote, but if you want to set up a timer, we'll start this one for an hour. We can start another one, start another one. We have multiple timers finally, and for those of you that have wanted that, that feature is finally here. So that's something I think a lot of people will appreciate that we should have had a long time ago. Also, a feature we've wanted for a long time is crossfade. If we go into Apple Music, different music will now crossfade from one to another. Now, the actual setting seems to be broken, but for some reason, it still works for many people. So if you go into your settings, and then we'll go back, we'll go down to music, you'll see if I go into music, it crashes because I turned on crossfade. With Beta 2, I would expect them to fix this, but that's something that's not working properly. Also, under the hood of iOS 17, Aaron P613 on Twitter has found that Apple is apparently working on new sort of accessories with a new MagSafe battery pack and new MagSafe charger. So what those updates bring, maybe faster charging speeds, something different, I'm not really sure, but it looks like they're working on those and they have those planned for the future. It could also be references to things such as the battery pack that goes along with the new Vision Pro. So those things could sort of correlate, but we don't really know. Now, we do expect iOS 16.6 betas this week with Beta 3, typically probably tomorrow or Wednesday. That's when Apple typically releases them, since we haven't had a beta in a couple weeks. What it actually contains, we don't know. It's a pretty small update, but we should know more once it's released. Also, we're seeing that iOS 16.5.1 could release to the public very soon. It looks like it's being seen in analytics, and usually when that happens, it's within 1 to 2 weeks. So it could be later this week, or it could be next week, depending on what Apple decides to do. But either way, we should see that. Also next week, I would expect iOS 17 Beta 2. It would be later in the week, or it could be the following week. Based on last year, Beta 2 released in the 20 area of the month. So in the 20s, the 22nd, 24th, that makes sense. So we could see that sometime late next week, or it could fall to the following week. But either way, we should see that. And then the public beta will be in July, according to Apple. That could fall into maybe the last week of June. We'll have to wait and see what Apple does there. But either way, we should see a public beta in a couple weeks at this point. Now, as far as rumors and leaks this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mac and also Apple Vision Pro, and also iPhone. Now, Apple Vision Pro does look impressive, but the price is quite a figure for the average consumer to just buy instead of a Mac or device if they know that it's something they need for work or something that would be useful. However, Apple is planning a cheaper version in the future. Maybe it will just be called Apple Vision, and then we'll have Vision Pro, just like iPad, iPad Pro, iPhone, and iPhone Pro. Now, one thought I had is, while we don't have a whole lot of news about iPhone 15 this week, these are models I showed off in a different video, we do know they're planning sort of to update the cameras with iPhone 15 models. One thing Apple Vision Pro does that I thought was fairly impressive is it takes a photo in the perspective that you normally see. I would love to see maybe a similar feature on the upcoming iPhone. They've figured out what camera angles and lenses they need for the Vision Pro. They could bring those over to the iPhone, and then you take a photo just like you normally see it, maybe in 3D with depth and more. So maybe that's something we would see with those cameras. It was just a thought based on, since they've already introduced that technology in the Apple Vision Pro, but maybe we'll see that. Also, another thing I would love to see from Apple Vision Pro are the transparent menu bars and more brought into iOS. There was a lot more depth, something we haven't had since iOS 16. I would love to see that brought across to iOS and iPadOS and Mac to make things a little bit more consistent. Now this week, of course, we'll see the release of the new Macs I mentioned earlier with the Mac Pro, Mac Studio, and MacBook Air 15-inch, but Apple is hard at work at the next chipset with the M3, according to Mark Gurman. This is expected to be a big bump from a 5nm process down to a 3nm process. That would bring it much more efficiency, could be used in even iPhones, and would help with processing power and more. So that's something that maybe they'll wait until the next iMac to introduce it with that, but they haven't updated the iMac yet. Maybe they'll wait for that, or maybe they'll put it in the next MacBooks. We don't know, but Apple's hard at work on that. So we'll have to wait until they actually release that. It could be next year though. So with all of those things this week, I'm looking forward to the iOS updates. Of course, beta 2 of iOS 17 should bring some big changes. Usually it does every year. Through many of the betas, we see sort of refinements over that time, and even new features such as hopefully that journaling app, although that may not be out until 17.1. Let me know what your favorite thing at WWDC was last week. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.